servant. And when they had come to Jesus, they begged him earnestly, saying that one of the ones, I don't know why I can't read tonight. He's him earnestly saying that the one for whom he should do this was deserving, for he loves our nation and has built us a synagogue. Watch this. Then Jesus went with him. And when he was already not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying to him, Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof. Therefore, I did not even think myself worthy to come to you. But now this is where the faith is. Watch this. He says, but say the word only, or in the King James Version, it says, speak the word only. Speak the word only, and my servant will be healed. For I am a man placed under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus, now this is Jesus' response to this. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him and turned around and said to the crowd that followed him, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. So what was so great about this man's faith? He knew that Jesus didn't even have to come in the building. He knew that Jesus, he had faith, and this is what we're really doing when you break it down. He had faith in the faith of Jesus to get his servant healed. And when we're praying to God, when we throw our faith up there, we have faith in the faith of Jesus to get these things done. And why is that? Because he's our faithful high priest. He's sitting on the right-hand side of God right now, and he's given us this Holy Spirit and the authority to speak these things. And so we have our faith in his faith to get these things done. And that's what the centurion servant did. And there's only one other time that he said somebody had great faith. Watch this. This is Matthew 15. Check this out. Now, this is really good too. Let's see. Matthew 15 and the 21st verse. Now, check this out. This is a really good story. This talks about a woman and, well, I'll let you know at the end of it. Watch this. This says, Then Jesus went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely demon-possessed. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and urged him, saying, Send her away, for she cries out after us. But he answered and said, I was not sent. Now this is going to sound kind of cruel when it gets into it. He says, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Remember, it said she was a Gentile. Gentile means she was a non-Jew. Then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jesus just called that woman a little dog. I mean, it's kind of a colloquial thing, like something they would say in the day. And the actual translation of that word dogs there is not dogs, it's puppies, which softens it up a lot. He says throw it to the little puppies. That's what little dogs are. But God, I mean, anyway, it's tongue in cheek, and Jesus said that. And it says and she said, Yes, Lord. Well, let me start back over. He answered and said, It is not good to take the children's bread and to throw it to the little dogs. And she said, Yes, Lord. Yet even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered and said to her, O woman, great is your faith. Let it be to you as you desire. What was so great about her faith? She threw all shame and pride away. This woman, after Jesus said, No, I came for the house of Israel, she threw all her shame and pride away, and she said, Help me. She said, help me. I'm throwing all this away only because I know that you can do it. My faith is in your faith to get this woman, to get my daughter healed. And he's listening. Even now, even more so now, if you are a believer in him. But once you start speaking in faith, you can't speak against it. You can't say something other than what the faith is telling you to do. You can't say that I'm healed and then go out and tell somebody at work I'm sick as a dog. Even when you're in the middle of your sickness, you have to claim the healing and not the sickness. I know it's going to sound funny, man. I know it probably sounds funny. You know, there was one minister that I heard a long time ago. This is probably 10 to 12 years ago. And he said this. He said, people who walk around speaking in faith, he says, it almost sounds like they're lying. He says, no, he said it sounds like they're lying. Because what are you doing? You're speaking those things that be not as though they were. So you're saying something is that isn't yet. But by faith, it is. And you have to do those things. You have to do those things. You know, I ran into somebody when I was doing radio and doing comedy and all that stuff. And this dude, he told me, he was like, yeah, man, you always said you were going to do some stand-up and get on the radio and stuff. And I said, I did? And he said, yeah, you always said that. And I was like, huh. I had no recollection. But because I really believed it and I said it, and I believed it, it manifested. Now, it turns out both those things never brought me any joy, but I believed what I was saying. And you know people in your life, like everybody remembers that kid you had in high school that came to school every day with a suit on and carried a briefcase, right? Or maybe you don't. I mean, I do. I remember kids like that. And you know, some would come to work wearing, come to school wearing like, you know, bow ties. I mean, dressed to the nines, because in their mind, they were a business owner and they believed it with their whole heart. And what happens when they leave there? They end up working in business or owning their own business or something like that. People believe it. How many times have you heard athletes say, man, I've been dreaming of this as a kid. I always said I was going to be in a Super Bowl. I heard one of the guys saying that on an interview the other day. You hear that from people who sing. I said as a child I was gonna win a Grammy one day, and they're doing it. Why? Because they spoke it and they believed it. Now, a lot of those things are not the will of God. And I know people love to say this too. They say, well, you know, when you speak those things in faith, you know, if it's the will of God, Jesus said he'll give you the desires of your heart. That's what Jesus said. Jesus said he'll give you the desires of your heart. Jesus said you are healed. He says you're healed. He says your faith heals you. That's what he said. Now, when people love to tell you these things and, well, if it's God's will, and then if it doesn't happen, they say, well, it must not have been God's will. No, a lot of times it's because you let your faith falter. But you have to, once you start speaking in faith, you have to continue to speak in faith. You can't turn to the other side. You can't do like Peter and look around and see that the wind is boisterous and the waves are crashing. You have to keep your eye on Jesus, because as long as Peter was looking at Jesus, he was walking on water. And when Jesus reached down after he screamed out, help me, then he grabbed his hand and he came back up. And it said when he began to sing, not when he sang, when he began to sing. When he began to sing, the country's coming out of me. But when he began to sing. So you have to keep your focus on Christ. Remember 2 Corinthians 3:18. The more that we keep our eye on him, the more he makes us like him. You understand that, right? Okay. So that's great as your faith. And those two people also had something in common. The centurion servant, which I spoke about earlier, and this woman who was a Gentile. Well, it turns out they're both Gentiles. They're both Gentiles. That's why he told the centurion that I haven't seen this great of faith, not even in Israel. Because he's a Gentile. He was a non-Jew. And he said that for the woman because she was a non-Jew. And what do those two people have in common? They did not have the law of Moses hanging over them to give them that guilt and shame. All they were doing was going to the power and speaking to the power, and the power performed. Come on, man. You know. And here's the thing, man. Like we walk around and we do all this stuff, and we walk around commiserating about things when the answer is simple. When the answer is simple. Pray about it. Speak in faith. You got to pick up the Bible and you've got to read that thing, and so that you know what you're doing with it, so that your faith can build. All right, we're going to do one more. Let's see. I want you to see this. I do want you to see this. This is in Hebrews. And Hebrews is a very rich book. I think I spoke some from it last week. Let's see. Yeah. And this talks about Jesus and his position, right? And it's really, really cool. It's really, really cool. And this is where our faith comes from. This is who our faith comes from, right? Listen to this. This is a guy. Now, you remember Moses was the high priest over the law. But because you become a son of God, you're no longer under the law. You're under grace. And grace has a name, and it's Jesus Christ. So we're under Christ, not under the law. The law, Jesus is greater than the law. So it was pushed to the side for us. We're not under those same what the Bible calls bondages. We're not under bondage like that. We're free. Now, just because you're free doesn't mean that you can go out every day and just, kill 5 people. I mean, you're probably not saved anyway if you're out there killing 5 people. But what you are is you're free from the law, and that keeps you from having that desire once you truly believe it, right? Because you start realizing whose you are. All right. So check this out. This is Hebrews 4 and verse 14. All right. Ready? Let's go. It says, seeing that we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession, meaning our confession of faith on who Christ is. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weakness, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Now, it says who cannot sympathize with our weakness. Why? Because the Bible tells us that Jesus was made like us in every way. He was made like us in every way. He was a full-blown human being. He was a human being. He set the Godhead aside, meaning he set the power that he had, and he just relied on the power of God. You have to realize every time Jesus healed, it was God doing the healing. Do you realize that? And only because Jesus was demonstrating how we're supposed to walk. We're supposed to be doing these things. He said, those that believe in me will heal the sick, will raise the dead. They're going to preach to God. We're going to do those things. Jesus said this. He said, the works that I do, you shall do also, and greater works than these. This is Jesus saying this. So he was walking the way that we should be walking. All right. And it says, let me start over it. Let me start at verse 15. It said, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weakness, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in a time of need. Our high priest is there. He's ready. He's willing. He wants to help you. He's given you the Holy Spirit. He said that he's given you authority to trample over serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. He's love. He loves you so much. He loved you so much that he gave his life so that you could have an everlasting one, and so that you would know everlasting life after this one, and that you can have an abundant life right now. But know this, child of God. I mean, there are times coming right now, man. They're winding up. And where your faith is going to be persecuted. You're going to be picked on. You're going to be ridiculed. But you have to stand firm in this. You know, in Peter, I think it's 2 Peter 3:15, where it tells us that be ready to defend this hope in which we stand. So I encourage you to pick up a Bible. Read the book of John. Read the book of John. It's a great book about love. Or First John 1. Yeah, no, read the whole book of